All right, well, thank you everybody for being here today. Before we hop in today, thank you for attending our session as first time at AERA, What to Know Before You Go. This is hosted by the SSRL SIG, Graduate Student Committee. So just to hop in today, as we get going, I'm going to give a moment to introduce both myself and I'm going to call out Claire to provide just a brief introduction about herself and what she studies. She'll be one of my co-hosts and she'll be handling sort of the panel session for today's conversation. So Claire, if you want to hop on and share a little bit about yourself, we can get started.
Hi, everyone. As Michael said, my name's Claire. I'm a PhD student at Old Dominion University studying educational psychology. I'm excited to be here as a first-time attendee of AERA, and I'll be taking over some of the question and answers for our panelists later today.
All right, thank you, Claire. My name is Michael Barrow. I'm a fifth-year PhD candidate at UNC Chapel Hill. I'm on the SSRL Graduate Student Committee, and my major academic focuses center on sort of around motivation and self-regulated learning. And I think I've attended, this will be my fifth or sixth AERA, but my fourth in person. So I'm looking forward to being in LA in a couple of weeks. My job today is to try to give you what I hope to be a brief overview of some of the AERA basics that we as a committee identified and sharing with you before we hop into our panel discussion. So to that end, and sort of as a general overview of what you can expect, I'll be leading this overview. We'll touch a little bit on sort of some basic topics that come up and some of the general questions that were submitted as part of your registration for this session. And hopefully that'll take about 5 to 10 minutes. We're then going to hop into sort of some structured questions for our panel, which will be about 20 to 25 minutes. And we'll conclude with about 15 to 20 minutes of open Q&A, where anyone of you in the audience can submit or ask their questions directly to the panelists. All right, so with that, we can hop right in. So I think the first thing to know for first-time attendees is that AERA is a big conference. Over the last 10 years, attendance has averaged out to about 15,000 attendees. That's a lot of people. And what's important to keep in mind as you sort of think about these next couple of weeks is those 15,000 attendees are split over 12 divisions and numerous special interest groups. What that means for you specifically is that there's a ton of people, there's a ton of sessions, and there's a ton of opportunities for you to meet and connect with researchers and educators that touch on all aspects of education and learning. You can't do everything. You can't be everywhere, though. So filtering down your options and sort of honing your focus is one of the most important things you can do to prepare for AERA. So there's a couple of different ways you can do this, and there's not necessarily a right way, but one of the easiest ways at the very least is if you search the AERA program, you can filter your searches either by sort of the divisions or the topics you're most interested in. You can also search by special interest groups that you may be a part of, and you can also use and search directly for researchers and other people or other authors who might be conducting research that you're interested in or is someone who you would like to meet. So again, make sure to try to plan ahead and identify sessions that might appeal to you ahead of time. We also wanted to highlight an important meeting that you'll see in every division in SIG list, and that would be the business meeting. So these business meetings are sort of formal meetings hosted by either the special interest groups or divisions of AERA, and they focus on organizational matters and share updates. These can be particularly useful even for sort of newer PhD students, as they can help you build an awareness of the current trends and accepted works within a division or special interest group. And they can also help you get a better idea of whether the SIG is right for you. And they also typically provide some opportunities to network with other members either during or after its conclusion. So make sure to look out for those business meetings as you're plotting your schedule out. Moving towards sort of more practical suggestions for AERA in Los Angeles. Note that this is not an exhaustive list of venues that might house sort of events and facilities, but events for DivC, MoTSIG, and the SSRL special interest groups are spread across these 3 venues. That would be the Convention Center, the Westin, and the Marriott Hotel. What's important to note here is that like certain sessions you may want to attend might be immediately followed by sessions in a different building. And the walk between the Convention Center and the Westin is about 1.2 miles. So it's a bit of a trek. Again, what that means for you is that you might have about a 20-minute walk between venues. Other social events might be distributed around town. So remember to sort of prepare yourself accordingly. Bring a travel bag and bring a good pair of walking shoes that you can expect to use throughout the day. Next up, we wanted to touch a little bit on the dress code. The first rule of the dress code is there isn't one, but how you present yourself does matter. So again, it's up to your discretion, at least in that degree. Our general recommendation was business casual. I think you'll find most people for attending sessions and maybe a bit more formal if you're presenting. Sundays are typically like semi-casual. It's the last day of the conference. People are often traveling. There's also sort of the dress code for social events, and that's going to be highly dependent on the venue and location dependent. So just be aware, like as you're preparing and packing for AERA, of those things. The last thing we wanted to do was briefly give an overview of session types, if you're not as familiar with AERA, of the different types of sessions that are available and sort of what they entail. So first we have the poster and lightning sessions. These are generally sets of about 20 presenters who have projects related to an overall theme. There are digital displays and presentations. The presentations are typically shorter and they're given in sort of a one-on-one or small group setting, which allows for easy follow-up questions and conversations. Words are hard. Roundtable presentations are next in line. These are typically smaller groups seated around a table. They typically consist of about 4 to 5 presenters and a chair. Presenters may share slides or handouts summarizing their work, and the chairs help facilitate an open discussion of questions and emergent themes from the presenters. As a note for new presenters, if you're a member of a roundtable or a paper or symposium session, and you're presenting and you have not heard from your chair, it is okay and expected for you to be able to reach out to ask questions about the structure, the order of presenters, and the timing of your session. So please, if you haven't heard from them, you are encouraged to reach out to find those things out. Lastly, we have paper sessions and symposiums. These are grouped together because the format is largely the same. Generally, 4 to 5 presenters will present their work to a seated audience, and a discussant will help connect and provide a thematic overview of the papers. The major difference is how the papers were submitted. The group of presenters in a symposium applied together as a group around a specific theme, whereas paper session authors apply individually and are grouped together by the program chair of the AERA division or special interest group. So I can stop talking now, so that's great. So thank you all for bearing with me as we covered some of these AERA basics. If you have any follow-up questions for me, feel free to shoot me a private message or an open message in the chat, or save them for the Q&A in a little bit. With that, I'd like to take a moment to pass the mic to our panelists to give you both a chance to meet them and give them a chance to introduce themselves. So if we can start with Cristina, I can also pass it off to Claire if you want to take it.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Michael. That was very helpful. And thank you so much to our panelists for being here today. We are excited to learn from both professors and graduate students. So if you guys could just introduce yourself and we'll just work our way across.
Sure. Well, thanks for everyone for showing up. And thank you so much to all of you who have coordinated this and making this, Helenrose said it earlier, but very regulated in how we're proceeding through this. I'm Cristina Zepeda. I'm an assistant professor at Vanderbilt University in psychology and human development. And I think I went to my first AERA maybe 10 years ago.
Hi, I'm Helenrose Fives. I'm a professor in educational foundations at Montclair State University. I am also the current Division C Vice President. I went to my first AERA 26 years ago, I think. So yeah, I'm excited to be here and I really appreciate you all organizing this for people.
Hey, I'm Willow Alston-Socha. I'm a PhD candidate at NC State University. I'm going to graduate in a few months, so super excited about that. My research focus is around metacognitive monitoring within self-regulated learning.
Hi, I'm Julia. I'm muted, but you can hear me through. I'm in the same room as Michael, so that's why. I'm a second-year PhD student at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. My research focuses on the intersection among self-regulated learning, higher order thinking, and generative AI. So I'm very curious about how people self-regulate their learning when using AI, and how do we make sure that they're thinking critically and then using the higher order thinking skills. And my first time last year was my first time going to AERA, and I wasn't a presenter, so I could, yeah, so it was a very hectic but fun time for me. So I can kind of, it's the freshest for me, so I can share my perspectives around that.
All right, thank you all. Now, our first question, we're just going to dive right in, and we are wondering, how do you prepare for AERA? Specifically, we're wondering, what do you do before you arrive, maybe on the day of your arrival, and also what type of tools or resources do you bring with you to the conference?
I can go first. So what I do is, it was nice that Michael showed that program. I search for keywords or people or SIGs. So I go to a couple SIGs and divisions. So then I look up those things to see what excites me. And then I still feel like I don't always have the fullest confidence in the app. The app has not always worked for me. So I save that link and put everything into my calendar. And I always check the time zone because that is like the scariest thing to me. But the best is making sure you have that link because sometimes rooms change. And so you just want to be able to click the link to verify. I've had that happen a couple of times. Um, but if someone else wants to pick up, those are kind of what I do.
I think over time, the way I've prepared has changed based on as I get older. I now typically go directly to searching for people and scholars that I want to hear talk. And I will go and hear somebody's talk, even if it's not something I'm interested in, if I know the speaker is somebody who I want to hear. I used to do more of a who's doing teacher beliefs and what are they doing and tracking really tightly to what my research interests were, but that's changed. Also, if you make conference friends, my best friend from my grad school days, Michelle Buell, was really good about finding sessions. And so I could just follow her and I knew it would be a good session, even if it wasn't what I was interested in. Like she just was really good at selecting them. As VP, my schedule is pretty much filled out for me, so I don't get to choose a lot of things. And I mean, I'm old school. I bring a notebook and I write everything down in a spreadsheet that I print out and carry around with a piece of paper. But to Christina's point, rooms change at the last minute. Last year, the Division C business meeting got changed the day of the business meeting. And I only found out because some graduate student was looking on the app, which I don't touch, and was like, it's not in that room. I was like, oh, okay, let's send a message out. So somehow keeping in touch with the technology is obviously important.
For sure. And I'll add on that if you don't have your entire schedule built out before you go, that's okay as well. There's definitely times where I've had a start to a schedule, but maybe started one morning just pulling up a spot on the floor and going through and deciding which sessions I wanted to go to for the day. But I definitely think there is a theme here in being prepared and kind of thinking about that ahead of time because there are so many sessions that you can attend and even considering having some backup sessions as well because like Michael mentioned, there are times where you realize that the next session you really wanted to go to is a good 20-minute walk away and it starts in 5 minutes. Or, there is a session that was really full, really busy as well. So having some options is always nice as well. And then I also like to prepare to have a good bag. I know this is very vain, but a good bag that I can carry my laptop in because you often will go from the day's activities straight to dinner or straight to evening activities. And so having something that you can stuff all the things in, all the flair that you may get at the expo, your lunch, a drink, all of the above in as well has been really helpful.
Yeah, so for me, a lot of the same things, but specifically around sessions. So what I did was like before, kind of like a week or two before AERA, I kind of like listed all the events that I wanted to go to, and I just like put them on my Outlook or like my calendar. And I also invited people who might be interested in it, like such as my like cohort or like my fellow like lab partners, and then also like my advisor, so that we just knew what was going on. And it kind of worked out nice because there are actually a lot of like overlapping sessions that like, oh, like it kind of overlaps. So I can only go to one. So it was nice where like one of us like went to that session, and then afterward we were like, oh, how was your session? Or like, yeah, it was actually good, or like it was not worth going, or so that was kind of helpful. And I totally agree on the bag. I actually just got a bag on Amazon just for the conference. Because like I don't want to carry too much because it's a lot of walking, and I don't want to be too bulky, but I want to make sure I have like my laptop or even like my iPad if you want to just take notes. But yeah, and also water is essential.
All right, thank you all. This actually
Can I just
question.
point out one thing that so AERA will have buses that are doing a loop from the convention center to the Intercontinental to the Westin throughout the day. I think they have 2 or 3 buses. That doesn't mean that it'll be any faster than walking, right? But so just and in terms of like having a bag, having something, and the dress code, one thing is like people don't necessarily expect that you've gone home and changed for the evening, right? People leave their room at 7, 8 a.m. and go back at 10, and that's perfectly reasonable. So, I mean, it may not be healthy, but it's reasonable.
All right, now speaking of sessions, what do you all think makes a good session? Specifically, what are some of the things you look for when planning what sessions to attend? I know we did kind of talk about maybe looking for specific speakers or topics. Is there anything else?
I mean, I guess I can go first this time in the random. Yeah, for me, because last year was my first time ever going to ARA or like a conference. That was like my first ever conference. I wasn't presenting, so I wanted to really kind of get the most out of it. And what I really focused on was the people presenting. Like first, it was like I wanted to be there for my my cohorts and like or like my fellow like PhDs friends who were presenting, but also I think I just wanted to like meet the scholars in person. So for me, that's kind of what drove the sessions. So if there's a person that I've been reading about, like I wanted to definitely go because I've never met them before, and it's so cool to like see them. Yeah.
Yeah, and to add on to that, if you're looking for a particular person, you may not see their name listed first as a paper author or even as the presenting author. But those sessions can be really great too, because often those are their graduate students that are presenting the research that they have done together. So those can be really great sessions too. But I remember that was something that I didn't realize at first, the first time I went.
Were there any tips on navigating the app in terms of looking up sessions or planning?
I don't know about the app. I did like, so Helenrose says she's a conference buddy. I also find that like some people I'll be like, what session are you going to? And I'm like, oh no, I didn't see that one. And so then I might change plans. Or sometimes you're just burnt out. So you might just be like, I'm gonna go get a coffee. And I know I wanted to do this. I think it would be really cool, but you also have to balance those things. In terms of what makes a good session, I think I really like if I read something and I'm like, ooh, that's exciting and I see multiple talks that seem exciting, those tend to be really good sessions. Or if I've seen sometimes the discussant can really make a session. So if I've seen them give really good uh, discussant-like recaps, I also prioritize that as well.
I'll say when I first started going to AERA, I wanted to go to paper sessions and symposia. But symposia are usually much more structured, and so you're getting a better set of things. And I used to be like hate posters and roundtables. They were too close. They were too intimate. I much prefer going to posters and roundtables now. Posters even more, right? I'd rather go up to talk to Cristina and say, I see this. This is interesting. Can you tell me about it? And she can answer my question in like 3 minutes and we can get on with it, as opposed to having to sit through 5 papers to listen to the one I came to hear, and maybe it's good and maybe it's not. But again, when I first started coming, I was learning so much by sitting and listening to those papers. It's just it becomes different. And I think for a long time, I never went to posters because I thought I hated them. And then like, it's like, oh, wait, no, I grew up a little and it's different. Or I shouldn't say grew up. I learned a little more about how things work. So don't be afraid of going to the posters. And I will say the posters and the roundtables in particular vary in culture by division and SIG, right? So I go to a Division C roundtable and people are pulling up their laptops giving a presentation. I go to the Lives of Teacher SIG and they're like, what are you doing? No, 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 we're here to have a conversation. And so kind of being sensitive, like in getting a sense of what works for what groups, and where do you want to be? Oh, but what makes a good session is whether or not you have somebody next to you that you can be snarky with and make jokes.
Or a buddy that can make you feel confident to just ask the question you have. Sometimes I'll be like, should I ask this? And they'll be like, yes, ask that. Okay.
All right, so next we were curious, what is your just personal goal about attending the conference? And how might you manage the information you learn and use what you learn to support your own knowledge and research?
I can answer this first. So in true SRL fashion, it depends on what your goal is. Can sometimes depend on where you're at. So when I was working for a large research institute, I was going to the conference to bring back information and share with colleagues. And so I was very much focused on what information would be most helpful to the folks that I worked with and to the folks that I was serving, the clients that I was serving as well. So I do think that can differ. And then on a personal level, the goal is to learn about new things and to make new connections. The people that you can never imagine, the people that you will connect with at AERA, sometimes formally in sessions and sometimes like standing in the line for the bathroom as well. So just be really open for that too. And I am a big proponent of taking good notes as well. I have many times gone back and searched through notes. And so, yeah, big fan of coming up with some kind of note-taking fashion as well.
I can go next. Yeah, so for me, it was because when I went, I was the first year and I was very new to kind of like the research like life, or like the PhD life. So it was really nice for me to see what kind of research people are doing, especially because like the papers that I read are usually like delayed, right? Like it's like research that has been done in the past. And I guess so it's like nice to see like kind of ongoing research or like what are people doing like right now. And yeah, and also it also kind of like gives me like inspiration or motivation to kind of like pursue like, oh, if I had a question after a session, I'd be like, oh, maybe I should look into this, like because I'm again, like I'm starting out and I'm exploring different things. I remember I went to a session that did like a meta-analysis, and I wasn't really sure, like didn't really understand a lot about meta-analysis. Actually, the following semester I took a class of meta-analysis. So yeah, it really kind of shaped my interest in like and also like what I wanted to learn more.
I think for me, my goals have changed over time. So now I go back to see friends and like people that I know will be there. One of my first ARAs, another graduate student had reached out and said, I just read your paper. Could we meet? And so every year I email her and be like, are you going to be? She lives in another country. So I asked, are you going to be here? In hopes that she will. And so we've been able to like reunite every 5 years, which is pretty good considering the internationalness of it. But the other thing is when I go to sessions and I see something really cool, like a new method I hadn't thought about, and I'm like, maybe I could do that with my data. I really do like emailing them afterwards to say, I loved this talk or this poster that you had. Would you mind sharing the paper you referenced or something like that? So it's not just the connections in the moment, but the connections that you can keep beyond AR. Of course, I meet people that I may not ever see again, but it is nice to have that relationship building aspect.
I would agree. My goals have changed over time. For the past last year and this year, my primary goal is not to upset anybody and make sure everybody feels welcome. Just it is as VP. But it is a lot about seeing friends that I haven't seen in a very long time. I just got an email about getting a reservation to go to SIR, which you know or may not know is from Vanderpump Rules. and, and we are avid reality TV show fans. But I say that to say, like, somebody told me early on, I believe it was Anita Wolf-Okoye, who said, like, go and take a day, take an afternoon. You're in a city you may never have been to, you may never go again. Don't force yourself to do conference when there's a whole city for you to see and experience. So I would advise you to kind of like think about what's the thing I want to see or do in LA and try and find a time to do it.
All right, thank you all so much. I'm very happy that we brought up social networking and connecting with others because our next set of questions do touch on that. First, we were wondering if there are any key events or opportunities that you think first year attendees or early students should attend.
I was kind of waiting for either Willow or Julia to pipe in of what you have found. I feel like things are changing, ARA, and like everything seems much more student focused than it did when I first started, for example. But I think sometimes people see business meetings and it sounds awful. Like I would not think of a business meeting the way business meetings actually are, but that is a great space to meet some people that are interested in similar things. So I think that that is a very productive place to attend. And then some things have like social hours, and I love going to those because you get free stuff and get to chat and meet people in a casual setting. There's no like, there's not, well, you make your own pressure, but it is a low cost space to do so.
Yeah, I can, I guess, kind of follow up. I think honestly, when I think about my experience at ARA last year, it's like it was kind of a blur for me because like it was a lot. So I remember socializing, but I can't remember the specific like event that I went to because I was just kind of running around. But I think, for example, like if your lab kind of like coordinates another like meeting with another lab, I know we did that with Vanderbilt. And yeah, so that's a great opportunity to meet like kind of like other students in like labs that are like might be like partnering with you or kind of like have some similarities. And yeah, I think there was a also like I don't remember what event what it was, but like it was at the kind of like the last night, and then it was like a big like we had drink tickets and like food, and then there were a lot of people there, and I remember just like talking with a bunch of people. Yeah.
That might have been the Division C reception after Division C. We got drink tickets for that, I think.
Towards the end too.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, the Division C business meeting is, of course, the most fascinating thing to attend the entire week. Um, we're doing it differently this year. We're having the reception before the meeting, and it's late, which is not great, but there will be drink tickets and some food. Most of the business meetings will have food. The larger divisions will have larger receptions. Divisions K, G, and J, I think. I may be missing one. Do a joint reception. And they usually they have like a DJ coming and they're planning a line dance of some kind. We're not doing that in Division C, but we could. So those kinds of things are fun to be able to see people in different places and things. I look forward to those. Now, keeping your social battery going, good luck. I have to go home and recover for the week after extending myself because I live alone and like to be alone, and people don't believe this, but I am introverted. So it takes a lot of energy, and I think it's just planning it. And sometimes I think just taking the 15 minutes in your hotel room with your buddies and just debriefing, because, and I don't know if this is going to come up, but I will say this, you do need to be careful what you are saying in these public spaces because you never know the next job you might apply to, and they may not be in your area, but it may be their university, right? So, and how you, and you never know what's going to be right or wrong. So just being aware, not afraid, but aware of who you might be talking to and about is important. Not that I've ever made a mistake like that.
I guess kind of going along with that, we were wondering what are some ways that you can introduce yourself to other graduate students and also to other faculty members that might be at the conference?
I would just try to be as open to meeting others as you feel comfortable. Maybe push yourself a little outside of your normal comfort zone because most other folks are far away from home as well. And so I encourage everyone to introduce yourselves to folks that maybe you wouldn't normally talk to people in the coffee line, or you can tell that I have no problems with these things. But yeah, be open to informal chats and also to introducing yourself at sessions as well. Oh, and that is another thing about the poster sessions that like go talk to the people. They want you to talk to them, no matter how different formats are different, but it's really boring if you don't talk to us also. And we have these really cool screens that are interactive and you can send the information to yourself from them. So it doesn't even require that you take notes. That are set up so you can email yourself the entire presentation in poster sessions. So talk to folks there.
Similar to Willow, I just say, "Hi, I'm Cristina Zepeda. It's so nice to meet you. Can you, if we're at a poster session, do you mind walking me through your poster session?" Or now, again, at the different stage careers, I'm like, "This is Wendy Wang. She's a graduate student in my lab." And so, if you don't feel comfortable introducing yourself or you're a little more timid, you can tell that to your advisor or someone else that you know. Or if you see, I mean, I don't want to speak for all of us, but I'm pretty sure if you are like, "Hey, I really want to go talk to so-and-so. Do you know them? Will you introduce me?" That's the easiest part of that. Once you start feeling comfortable, it's easy. Oh, and Wendy is loving my comment. But like that can be a helpful space too.
I will just say though, if you really want to meet somebody, have a question for them. I'm not that fancy of a researcher, but people will come up and they'll be like, "Oh, you're Helenrose Fives." I'll be like, "Yes." What am I supposed like again, my introversion, like I don't have a conversation planned. I don't know why you even I don't know what you've read. I don't know why you're happy to meet me. And again, like I'm like, "Oh, okay." And um so I have been working for the past 2 years on being much more receptive and kind of kinder in my brain, like, okay, this is somebody who, for whatever reason, But even if you just have a question, and not the question that's like on page 365 of your epistemic cognition chapter, could you tell me what? No, I can't. And again, something like that has happened, right? So somewhere in between, like, but have a question you want to ask or something that, again, I will say more educational researchers are introverted and socially awkward than you would expect, especially as you go into more ed psyche realms where people were not ever teachers. And so, they're not used to being superstars, right? And in our little world, they are. So.
Yeah, I think I agree with a lot of the points. I think it was really helpful for me because I get really shy, like going up to someone and like, so it was really helpful for my advisor to kind of like set up that communication. He would be like, "Oh, here, like this is Julia." So that was nice. Otherwise, I would go with a friend and then we would kind of like go together, and that made me feel better. But also kind of like recognizing that like usually if a presenter had just presented, like there is a line for people, and I kind of recognize that like they might be kind of like bombarded with questions. So if it's not like sometimes like, so I kind of like wait for my chance, like I don't go like straight into it. I just kind of like hang around until like they're more free, and yeah, kind of respecting their space as well.
Or if you're at an event with Helenrose, then just let her know and she'll introduce you as well. So I don't know if you remember last year you introduced me to Patricia Alexander at the Division C social. So thank you.
I'm very happy to do that. It gives me a task, which then makes me feel more confident.
There also, like, as you become, I think it's like usually second or third year. I'm not sure. It's been a long time since I've looked at the requirements, but there's also more formal mentorship programs throughout AERA. So SSRL SIG has one. And Claire, we're matched. I don't know that you know that, but we're matched.
I do not know that.
Yeah,
I'm
now
very
you do.
excited.
But I ruined
Spoiler.
the joy of opening an email maybe. But so there are other ways you can get more formal one-on-one time as well.
All this networking advice has been very helpful. What are some ways that networking might change as you progress through your program from an earlier PhD student to maybe a candidate towards their dissertation?
I'll just say, when I first went to AERA, I was all about like seeing my early researches in self-efficacy. So I went to meet Anita Wolf-Okoy, right? That's and Bandor, right? These were and then it slowly dawned on me. I'm like, no, those are not, they're never gonna write with me. Well, maybe they will, but their students are my peers. And they're also wandering around, not getting involved in anything. And their students are interested in the same things I am. And so it became I'd like to say I figured it out early, but it took me a little while. It became much more meaningful for me to network with people who were going to become my peers and colleagues as I progress through this thing and would be in the same career stages as me than meeting the whoever, because that person had a bunch of students already, right? So not that it's not possible, but I was just like, oh, it makes so much more sense. And then you end up meeting those people too, and you shouldn't be befriending their students so you could meet them. That's a different thing, but it was just so much more. It's like, oh, that makes much more sense for me to be looking for peers who are going to grow with me in this profession. It's like,
I think too, once you start getting to close to dissertating and maybe you want a postdoc or maybe you want an industry job, that's when like your real, I hate the word networking. It freaks me out. Where you start connecting makes me feel a lot better, and meeting other people can become more of a central goal. So you kind of shift maybe who you're meeting with. Um, I I have found, so in the pandemic is when I did my postdoc, and I found so much gratitude and gratefulness to be able to connect with my peers and make that an intentional thing, even at virtual AERA and things like that were happening. So that can also be another way to think about what you might do given your current goals in that state. Now I was trying to think of what do I do now. I think it really becomes like a mini reunion in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much to add because I've only been there once. But my kind of networking approach was just get out there and like just see like what people are doing. And I'm not really like I don't have a project that's like that I need like advice on like or like I didn't have a project that was kind of like in a stage where I could like present. So it was just more about like getting to know people and exploring.
I do think too that when you are an earlier student, that you should be exploring different interests, and along with that, a lot of times goes different SIGs, different divisions, and then as you become closer to dissertation time, that your list of SIGs narrows, but the way that you approach networking with them maybe deepens a little bit as well. So, early on, explore different groups, and that's kind of how you find out different things that folks are doing.
All right, now this was brought up in the chat. We are curious about how you maintain your balance and energy while at the conference. Maybe any specific tips for those whose social batteries run low.
I feel like my friends give me energy when I need it. But lots of I feel like I have to come down from I need a vacation after AERA. So that's kind of how it feels.
No, for sure. I think you should go into the conference expecting that it's going to be very busy. You're going to be very active. So that helps you prepare for that time. But also, I will say, I don't think I've ever gone to every session that I have planned. I've really wanted to attend. So there are times where halfway through the day you realize, like, I'm done. This is enough for today. I'm full. My bucket is full for today, and I have done my fair share of shopping and eating at every single conference as well. My husband is probably not as excited about the shopping part, but oh well, whatever works.
I think it changes as you age. I just don't have the stamina I used to. Um, and it is just for me, like it's somebody Michael mentioned, it's a mile between the Westin where I'm staying and the convention center where all the posters and roundtables will be. That's a, I mean, that's a lot, right? So physically it's tiring. I'm on a different time zone, right? So that there's all of these things that we kind of just need to at some point say, I'm tired, I'm gonna sleep and let yourself sleep. Or I've just walked out one day and gone to the restaurant or the bar and sat at the bar. I'm like, okay, I'm done. And then I'm sitting talking to somebody about the Nora Roberts novels that we both like. And it turns out she's the associate dean of the College of Ed at UMass Amherst. And it's like, oh, okay. So then, I mean, it's one of the best mentoring experiences I've had because I asked her, I'd just gotten tenure. I'm like, so what do you do now? Like, she's not connected to me. This is a good thing to ask people, right? People who are completely not connected to you, asking them these kind of questions like, okay, what do I do at this stage of my career? Because they don't have there's no reason for them to say anything but what they perceive to be the truth. And so that was very helpful for me. I was like, oh, okay. Because I didn't really know what it meant to be an associate professor. Um, and that ended up being and I guess the point is too, at every stage of your career, you need a mentor. Like it doesn't stop. Um, but yeah, but I think if you're exhausted, you should sleep, right? And not like on a chair in the lobby if you can fake it, or make sure a friend is with you. So, but physically, you need to take care of yourself.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I did. I napped on like I was supposed to go to this session, but I chose napping instead. And I napped for a good 4 hours. And I really needed that. I think I felt because it was my first time at the conference, like I didn't realize how draining it would be. And I also I had an episode of like imposter syndrome as well, just being like, oh wow, like these people are presenting like their research and like wow, like they're and then and so I think a mix of that was also kind of like influencing like I was very, very tired towards the end. And like I kind of felt bad, like, oh, I feel like I should be going to these, like I feel like I have to, like as a like if I want to be a good researcher, student, like I should go to these, but I just couldn't. So I just napped and it was great. And I'm still here and I'm fine.
And I'll be transparent. I'm a mom of 2 young kids, so like this is a period where I can go out late and go do the stuff I can't do on a regular basis. So I really I like to plan for it that I'm gonna stay out late and gonna go socialize, and it's just a different kind of bucket that needs to be filled. And so that's where like I think hanging out with friends and doing those types of things can help.
And Christina, I was just gonna say, I don't have any children, but I have colleagues who do, and they're like, I can stay in the hotel room and sleep and
Yes.
watch whatever I want to watch on the TV, and I can have my friend, and we have like a little slumber party where they don't, and just hang out in the hotel room. And again, it's that relational aspect, and so charging all of your batteries,
Yeah.
right, is important.
I will say too that thinking about nutrition, kind of pre-planning for that is really important too, because while the conference always does a really great job of trying to have lots of options, there still are a ton of people there, and it always feels like everyone always likes the thing that you really like too. So even thinking about like pre-planning your day with some snacks or protein bars in your bag, just so you can be ready to be really flexible. And even with the food venues right around the conference, you can imagine that those get really busy too. So it just allows you to have a little bit more flexibility in your day if you are not starving.
And it also stops you from getting that hangry, right? Like I'm exhausted and now I'm hungry and the line is too long and I don't want to spend $7 for a hot dog anyway. And so I think that's really, really important, Willow. Like, yeah, having whatever kind of snack thing that you have in your bag and your water bottle, because I'm sure in LA there'll be water refilling stations, and to take care of yourself is important. I keep repeating that, but yeah, it's important.
All right, thank you all so much. This advice has been awesome. That concludes our pre-prepared questions, and now we're going to pass it back over to Michael for him to lead our open Q&A. So feel free to pop any questions in the chat, in the Q&A feature, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I know
know
the
Oh, it should be your
I was unmuted against my permission. As it goes. I know there was the question earlier on recharging your social batteries, and I can look to see who did that. Did we answer that question sufficiently in sort of the last discussion, or? Okay, perfect. All right, so any other questions that people may have? All right, so we have a question of, have you attended the SIG Scholars Retreat and what does it look like? The SIG Scholars Retreat? No. I'm getting some no's, it looks like. Okay, this is a fun one. What would you suggest? So sorry about that, Sydney. Apparently, I don't know if we know, but we'll try to follow up with you afterwards to dig into that a little bit more. What would you suggest someone not do at AERA?
I think
You go, Julia, you go.
yeah, I think that's kind of like touching back on what I said about imposter syndrome that I felt. I think I found myself comparing myself to like the presenter because they were first years presenting. There were even like undergraduate students who like joined to present, and like they're amazing. And like I was like, wow. But then I was like, oh, like should I be present? Like why don't I have anything? So I started like kind of going through that spiral, which is not obviously it's not everyone has a different like timeline and everything. So I think just keeping in mind like you're not there to compare yourself, like you're just there to learn. And like and what I got out of the experience was really valuable, like even though I didn't go there as a presenter. Like I you know like this year I'm going as one of the presenters, so now I can kind of now I have the knowledge to be like okay, I know what ARA is like. So it was a valuable experience. So like I would just be mindful of like some of the thoughts that might come to your head if you're finding yourself comparing to others.
I don't want to be like a downer, but there are 15,000 people, and they're not all kind, good people. There are late parties, there's drinking, people are doing things. So I don't know if this is a not do, but it's a should do. You need a friend. If you're out and you're drinking, you need to watch when somebody's saying, oh, come back to my suite, which I might say because I have a suite party, right? So like it could be perfectly fine, but it could also not be. And unfortunately, I know of instances where it was not fine for people. So just be aware. Like I know it's creepy, but people are creepy. And so kind of making sure somebody knows where you are. And if you don't have a conference buddy, then, text me and I'll give you my phone number but something to make sure that you're safe is really important, even if you're just checking in. So it's just, yeah, I think you all get my concern.
For me, I think not getting in my own way. So sometimes I might be nervous to go say hi to someone. And then, like, if I think of my first time there, I didn't know anybody. I had a very small lab. My lab didn't go to AERA, and I felt like everyone like knew each other. And how was that ever going to happen? And then eventually it does happen, and you get more comfortable saying hello and things like that. But it takes practice. And so you will see. And if you have a clicky group where you always hang out together, it is helpful to go reach out to someone that maybe looks like them by themselves or you haven't met yet. So it's a two-way street when it comes to that stuff.
All right, I'm going to try to keep us rolling through, so we have some questions coming in, but thank you all for those answers. Any advice for presenters of paper presentations, just in trying to prepare yourself to give a presentation at this conference?
Practice and time yourself, because there's nothing more rude than somebody going over or somebody like fumbling with slides. And like I've sat there and I've got my 12 minutes and now you're taking 4 of my minutes because your slides aren't coming up because you are not prepared. So just talking to self-regulated people, you get it. But I think practice, practice, practice. And nobody's all that interested in all the details that you think are really important. Like, what's the big question? What did you learn? If I want to come back and ask you about your ANOVA or whatever logistic regression, like that's a conversation to follow up with later. But you should know all the answers to those questions.
My advisor always told me to write out a script. I find that makes me so anxious. So I like bullet points, but you have to figure out what works for you. Like if you keep forgetting to say something, put that in the presenter notes in all caps so you remember to say that thing. But practice like crazy, practice with whoever will listen to you, practice.
I will just add on to that, like I'm not a script person, but I do know I have a hard time starting. So I might have like the first line or the first few lines and like the last few lines to like, oh, this is how I have to recap. But I think Christina's right. Like what works for you? I know lots of people who read a script and they seem to do it great. So.
All right, thank you both. We'll go on to the next one. What was the most memorable, meaningful, rewarding conversation that you've had with someone you met at AERA, and what did you talk about?
I will say I didn't have the conversation. I was very fortunate that my advisor is very social and she would have conversation, and like I would follow her around like a little, duckling. And I would just sit and listen to the discussions she had with her peers. And that was like, oh, this is how people talk. Oh, and they would fight and they would have another glass of wine and like, but you just like, oh yeah, yeah, but we were just talking theory then. Um, and so just getting to see that kind of modeling up close, was really impactful for me in terms of like, oh, okay, this is the way this game is played. But
I think for me, I mean, I guess it's not. I feel like the most memorable conversation I had was actually with my advisor at the AERA because when I, again, kind of going back to like, I was feeling pretty like overwhelmed and like stressed and like the imposter syndrome and all that. And I think I sat down with him and I mean, he made the time to like sit down with me and like kind of talk through. And I feel like that was kind of the first time I was able to like kind of like share how I was feeling. And it was, yeah, and it was really nice, like to kind of like share it. And he was like, hey, you're not the only one and like totally normal. And, and then it made me feel a lot better afterwards.
All right. I think we're about at time. We have one more question that I think we'll get to probably of just any other tips or experiences for navigating the long list of AERA events and scheduling. Just anything. I know we've talked about like having a friend that knows what's going on, but beyond anything else in terms of your way to
I would ask people what they have found to be good events in the past, or just ask them for more information about different events to find out, kind of you can't do it all. There's no way you can do it all. So sometimes your advisor will have advice, but sometimes their perspectives are a little crustier than you might like to. So asking other peers at the conference if they've attended certain events before, and or just asking people, hey, what events do you think are the coolest? Don't tell my advisor I said he was crusty, by the way.
what happens in SSRL webinars stays in SSRL webinars until they're posted online for everyone's consumption. All right.
I think Div doing the happy hour thing with APA 15 again? That has always been really great. And so that is always on my list of things to do along with the business meetings.
it's on the first day of the conference, so Wednesday, I think it is.
Oh man, okay.
It's at Lazy Dog from 4 to 6 p.m. There's some food, there's some drink tickets, and it's a very relaxed kind of first day for people who get there the first day. DivC is also doing our strands again. So I think we have 5 or 6 people who have gone through the program and curated a list of sessions that they are going to go to based on their experiences. Rain Sperling has done one around self-regulation. And so like if you don't know what to pick, she does. And so you could follow a strand, and some of the strands are having face-to-face meetups at the conference to kind of talk about their experiences in these sessions, and others might do it post AERA, like on a Zoom or a webinar kind of thing. So that's just another way of navigating, of making it a little bit smaller.
All right, I want to be mindful of everybody's time just because we are at 4:02. I want to give a big thank you to everyone on our panel for coming out and sharing your insight and wisdoms on this, and everyone in the audience for making the time to come and ask questions. To close us out just really quickly, just as a note for those of you who are a member of the SSRL SIG, we are looking for new members of the SSRL Graduate Student Committee next year. So if you are interested in joining, please contact Anna Brady at the email shown on the screen if you're interested in being a part of events like this in the future. Thank you guys, and
Thank you. Bye.